Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is another painting chit chat video, and before I get into this painting, I would like to announce something very exciting. Summer is all around, and I would like to give something much more special to every one of you. I'm currently having a summer sale for all sticker packs and prints for 20% off if you use the code GIMME20. They are pretty limited, so grab them while they're gone. This is quite different than amongst all the paintings that I did. It's a portrait, which is something very rare. I don't usually do portraits, but there's a story behind this character that I really like to paint. Before I move along to the story, I really didn't plan about this. So if I get carried away, or maybe I just lost track of what I'm trying to say, I have to apologize in advance. So this is Sailor Jupiter. I think most of you would know Sailor Moon is. If you don't, I highly recommend you to catch up with the series. Initially wanted to use this for a speed paint, but it eventually became a pretty long process, which I really need to fix that, because I wanted to do something different for this channel where I can actually paint something that I really want to do, something fun, something that I don't really have to plan, so I can just have fun along the way. And this paper here that I use is the Strathmore gray tone pad, and it's a 6x8 pad. This being my first portrait after quite a while, I kind of slowly lost all the my sense of proportion and the color mixing for the skin tone. So that's why I have to change a lot of things in this painting, which resulted in me the long duration for this. So Sailor Jupiter, she is amongst all the characters in Sailor Moon, this is someone whom I related to when I was young, because she's the tallest among all. She's pretty strong, and I really like her strength. I am quite a big person, and I'm the tallest in my family, so that's pretty much why I related to her the most. And I like strong women because I just find it very attractive about them, and I like muscles. Okay. So painting portraits is something that I used to do when I was younger, and when I first started out drawing, Sailor Moon is pretty much like my first anime that I've watched during my childhood. I think I was in second grade or third grade. That was when I was 6 or 7 years old, and my older siblings, my older sisters, they were like around high school, so they tend to watch anime in the living room, so I just tag along and watch with them. But back in the days, we don't really have internet at those times. That was like the 90s, the early 90s. I think you can guess my age now, but let's forget about that. Back in the days, we don't have internet, so what we do in my small town, we usually have those VHS tapes. So they rent out tapes. You have to pay like a certain amount of fee for a subscription, and you can borrow as many tapes as you like for the week, and then you have to come back the following week to return them. And then on the day itself, you can actually get another episode or other movies or some sort. So that's where we found Sailor Moon, from that shop. So that's why my sisters tend to get Sailor Moon copies from there. And I didn't really know animes from Japan because the weird characters on the screen. I was a pretty naive girl, so I wasn't really exposed to all this different language cartoon. I only know that they speak Cantonese. Anyway, back to the story of Sailor Moon. We watch Sailor Moon episodes like every single week, because the shop, they tend to update new episodes every week, so that's why they have like fresh tapes where you can feel the tapes can be very warm. That's where they finish recording on that day. So that's how we have like our subscription. And cable was pretty expensive back then, so that's why we used tapes. While painting this character, it brings me a lot of memories back then, of all the stupid shit that I did when I was young, all the very cheesy thing that I did, try to mimic how they transform and all that. I know it's very embarrassing to talk about this, but I'm just gonna leave it till there. And speaking about Sailor Moon, I recently rewatched the OG series, not the new one, mainly because I just wanted to reminiscent the nostalgia that I watched many years ago when I was a kid. Because of watching this series, I just felt like listening to Japanese city pop music, and I just felt so inspired to paint something more funky. Funky? I'm not really sure. Funky is that a really right word? Well, anyway, while listening to Japanese city pop music, it really reminds me of city vibes on it. And while watching the anime again, it felt so nostalgic, and I felt like a kid again. I kind of binge watched the whole time while doing some work. So basically, I just let the show run on the background while I do some work or while I paint. And I personally like the first season of Sailor Moon because it's just very, I don't know, it just feels very like I miss my childhood, something like that. When I make this video, I just felt like I need some sort of a new direction in the channel. I don't have any sort of an idea what should I do with this channel, but I think I wanted to make it much more fun. So for the next few videos, I want to make it much more unscripted, more towards like how I would build myself as a person and also as an artist and also a storyteller, because I am not as good in telling stories. I think I have not introduced myself properly. I am actually from a family that does not speak English, and English is sort of my second or third language where I learned later in the years. So I think that making voiceovers to encourage myself to do more of this and to make more videos on YouTube would actually help me to gain more confidence. And I really totally understand if you guys don't really think so, but it's okay. So here's the story of how I get into painting, and it's a very long story too. I just don't know how to begin. I think the relationship between me and art starts as early as I was introduced into anime by my sisters, which they just randomly watch in the living room, and I just tag along. And that's where I noticed there's such art or such cartoon. That's where every week we watch the series over and over again, and I developed this kind of I don't know, a skill for me to memorize how their uniforms look, how each characters look. So I just grab my book. It's actually a lined notebook, so I just draw their faces from my memory. And back then we don't have the internet, we don't have like magazines, because it's actually pretty expensive back then, and we are from a very poor family, so we don't buy magazines. So I rewatch the series all the time to actually get those references from it, and I still remember how it looks like before, and it is nowhere similar to a Sailor Moon. It's just like a very sharp face and long hair with the tiara and the sailor uniform. And this goes on for many years until high school. I kind of stopped drawing because I just felt very discouraged by my classmates back then, because they just like to make fun of my drawings. And kids being kids, they just like to compare you to other classmates who can draw, and that quickly stopped me from drawing. And then fast forward to 8th grade or 9th grade, that was like a year before I can graduate from high school. That's when I started drawing again, because I felt very empty without art. And at that time we have the internet, and that's the dial-up internet where you have to buy like those cards, and then you have to scratch off the codes behind, and then you need to input numbers into your dial-up. I remember I have to use my allowance. It was $10 back then. That was my monthly allowance from my dad, and I used that up for internet. I think because I need to get into this magical realm called the internet to see what's in there. And that's where I found out DeviantArt is, and I see a lot of amazing works, and that totally motivates me to do. I just look at other people, other artists' works, and I just do some research from it. And yeah, I think this is like a short story from it, but there's actually a much more longer story which I don't want to bore you guys about. So yeah, I actually started from digital painting, where they were called as CGs. I started with digital painting, and now I am in traditional painting. And the period between me transitioning into traditional watercolor painting is a long story. I'm probably gonna have another video of that next time. For you guys who are still staying on listening to my story, I really appreciate for that, because I am nervous as shit. I am very nervous talking about my experience, because I have never talked about this before. Whew. And hopefully I don't have my anxiety again, because I am sweating. I'm sweating while doing this voiceover. And if you guys still tag along, I am very appreciative of that. And I think this is the end of this painting. Prior to this, I actually did my first watercolor painting, which is 5 years ago. That is my very first painting that I ever tried with watercolor, and it holds a special place in my heart. So it reminds me that I am still I'm still in this journey to be an artist, and hopefully there will be another version in a few years' time. So thank you for watching. I really hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe and drink more water. Bye.